Well, hello. I have a lot of questions. Hello. I'm doing this to introduce myself to some of my neighbors, some of whom have met me and been very intimate with myself, including breaking and entering into my home, actually, and assaulting me and accosting me within my own home slash place of living as you disappeared halfway across the street. And then, well, a very short while later, I could see your electromagnetic impression pass through my front door because I can see into that spectrum. And then felt you continuously to then accost me, going through my pockets, going through my persons, breaking the law, literally thinking that the right to enter will cover you, but no, unfortunately, I should warn you, because if you go look it up, the right to enter only includes the property line. It specifically states that it does not include the dwelling, aka the living space, which you are not allowed to enter. You also have to have broken something to first use it, as well as you also have to talk to your neighbor and arrange a plan to fix it before you use it technically, unless it's like a soccer ball over the fence, in which case like a kid will get over, right. um you keep calling me your neighbor. You have for well over 3 years, and I wanted to introduce myself to my Newmarket neighbors as I'm not crazy. I'm not special, and I have nothing but your family's at best of heart. I don't sleep most nights because, well, kids and people are still in danger. And this individual, after threatening to dox me online on Core, I believe it was, actually did, has gang stalked me, overlapped this apartment with our apartment downtown, our former apartment at Jarvis Street, which was actually right across the street from a couple of diplomat schools, which I was working with the staff and some of the parents there, actually profiling individuals who were risk to the children, seeing as I know some of the families there, actually. And I had the perfect location to. In fact, I actually caught a child kidnapping by somebody one day, and their vehicle turned left and disappeared. And then the wheelman slash watchman was across the street pretending, actually. Why? Because they can imitate being a parent with this technology that you're using. They can imitate looking like someone's boyfriend, like mom, like dad. like their older sister, like a teacher. And no one, well, especially with the work the kids have done on it, because they perfected it because they had to hide from everybody, including their parents, who made it worse. Because some women didn't trust the government and the government agents to do their jobs, which then got more kids trafficked and abused. And because of your uh, actions trying to defund everything that you see as sinful in the world, after you purposely flooded each of those markets, such as pedophilia, rape, sexual trafficking, the gay industry, the drug industry, and then created a binder to then track where it was all coming from, because you could do better than the men, which got some countries, I might add. So props to you on this. First part, you did good. You gave some countries a GDP that they've never seen and never had before, and they crawled their way out of a third world country, got the technology, got the school, and now you're ripping their largest industries and their money-making income streams from places like Mexico, Dominican, where else? Can you think of any? Trafficking culture. You mean out of like Eastern, like Bangladesh, which would allow for honor killings, unlike the rest of the countries there, where honor killings and religious killings are actually forbidden and against the law. Bangladesh and Pakistan are, and even not Pakistan, Bangladesh is one of the only ones that allow for honor killings because of this reason, and because of this group from the church, actually, because of the sexual trafficking from their country, which is then sold as orphan and Christian adoption, but really is sexual trafficking, actually, underneath it, hidden within an organization that's a shell corporation of the Billy Graham organization, so charging for both, actually, at this point. Then charging for the railroad operation to get the child out, third shell organization, charging for each and every single one. You then poisoned the drug supplies because, well, I can tell you this much. Dealers don't poison their own drug supply at all. Why? Because it's their community and it's their business. You don't poison customers to kill them. It's not good for business. You don't make money that way. You have literally attacked every single country that was a third world country, that because what you did was, well, wrong and not government sanctioned, I might add. You actually made quite a few people happy, realized that, they didn't need drugs because they had like Rat Park, which if you're not familiar with that research on drug studies, you should be. And you should look it up right now and type in Bruce Alexander, drug research, Canadian Parliament. Okay, well, it's not letting me screen share. So I'll send this on the live chat part. Maybe I'll actually get someone who actually cares. Because according to you, I'm too disgusting to even be allowed to have, mental health support. The only thing that I'm good to for you, or good for to you, is in a hospital. We have to get them to the hospital. Why? When I'm not the one who has the mental issues? Well, see, due to the technology and what's been happening and how widely it's become on Xbox, etc., I practically have a world of citizens who play Xbox worldwide to stop the damage of whoever this is, actually. Who not only can see and like everything that I'm doing, right? From their screens on their TV without needing YouTube. Keep in mind, politicians, etc., and it's all being recorded too. Why? Part of Video Justice Network, right? I don't know why this won't work. You know what? It might be in my settings. Whatever. It was research that was done over 30 years ago in Canada, actually. What is it again? You're ignoring every single piece of science.
Once you respond to
with it
emails 4
literally
times faster,
at
these
your
whisper flow
fingertips.
features are gonna blow your mind. Watch what it does.
It blows my mind that you have actually got everything at your fingertips with a smartphone. And not once have you done a Google search or had someone do it for you. So, you want to know why women don't do well in business, or rather in like politics, etc.? This. You're hiding behind a computer screen. You're religious fanatics. You literally targeted Rico, who's actually technically a cousin, by the way, and also a pastor, by the way. Did you know that? The one from Good Girls TV. Yeah. The drug dealer. Yeah, no, pastor, actually, who, well, knows what he's doing, like psychologically, and goes and ministers to the people. And if you've watched some of the TV shows lately, there's also a black lady who does the same thing. Gives them the safe supplies, the safe supply and the tools, provides a listening ear, even though Christian. Doesn't take shit though. I don't know her name, but she looks after the prostitutes, even gives out her own hard-earned cash that she can't afford to the prostitutes if they're hungry, even though they're cranky as hell. Meanwhile, you choose to sit in your white ivory Christian America tower, bitching about the church nursery color carpet, like your salvation depends on that. Not only that, going to other countries. My God is greater, my God is stronger. And if you watch my last video, you'll see how I prove that Islamic faith and the Quran is Paul's writings after they took his Bible away and put him in jail for preaching. So since he didn't have a Bible, he continued the writings and made it appropriate for the government to, allow it and passable. Yet it's the same when you go through it, because I've read both. And well, let me say this to who's in charge. You're not going to burn if you read them. In fact, I would say if you don't read them, you will burn in hell for eternity. And by the way, Antichrist, not a person. It's your attitude. Are you acting like Christ today, or are you like an anti-Christ behavior today? In fact, let's talk about this verse. I'm not preaching to non-Christians, by the way. I'm specifically preaching to the Christians who can't be bothered to know their own scripture or practice it. By the way, went to pastor school 3 times. Once wasn't enough, twice wasn't enough, 3 times wasn't enough to, get it into my clear head that God said, you're fine the way you are. You know who you are. You have Christ-like behavior. Go and live it. Don't go back to the church. No, out. I can't use you here. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will inherit the earth. What's righteousness? Tell me. If you are fighting for this and you're on the Christian side and blah, blah, blah with Westboro Baptist, answer me this. What is righteousness here? Because you won't be inheriting the earth. Because you ain't right with God. Whatever is just and true. Keyword, true. God's perfect justice. Those who seek this will never be thirsty. Be in right standing with God. Are you good with God? Are you walking every day with him? Are you praying more than 5 times a day like your Muslim brothers and sisters who are devoted to prayer, like to the point where they face a direction and it's timed and they kneel and kiss the ground? Well, seems like even if it wasn't the same, which I know it is, seems that if it wasn't, they would probably have more power over you in spiritual realm. It has nothing to do with following God's law perfectly or living in a white castle and being without sin, right? The sinless lamb. Why? Because you're not Jesus. Only Jesus is Jesus, fucking Mary. Or should I say, Traudl Junge from World War II. Epstein list much? Mary from Big Bang Theory. War criminal? Oh yeah, I did facial recognition. Good luck. You done, girl. Like toast, like dinner. Not to mention in Canada, Mary, with this little stunt, you've also committed high treason against the Queen of England. Not a good look. Punishable by death, actually. You're also hostage taking, expressly forbidden by the United Nations 1949 post-German, actually, and the Nuremberg trial, right? Which also states, by the way, you cannot target a state, individual, or group based off of their race, color, religion, sex, or anything similar. Oh, so when I tell you that it's related to your blood type, your sexuality, and where you are on the spectrum, and not only that, well, I guess you stupid fuckholes who get into motorcycle accidents because you're riding stupid and think you're invincible. I guess one day, if there's no other blood but O positive, and the blood bank don't got none, let's just say I'm not willing to like give it anytime soon if they take the ban off. Well, because that happens to be mostly gay blood, which you'd probably turn down anyways. So, you know. For over 3 years, I have been dealing with a faceless, anonymous online keyboard individual who screams at me, who says, what good is a husband if they don't do anything for you? Because she has been raised, because that's a teenage girl talking, or, you know, a young woman who has been raised with this impression that they are princesses, that their husband are supposed to move mountains for them. Even if they don't necessarily communicate to their husbands what they want, they're supposed to know automatically and live in this Disney fairy tale world where it's, you know, this and that, and it's easy. And no, it's not. I want to talk right now about, well, I mean, technically, for some of you who are pastors and whatnot, we could bring this back to basically the discussion of agape love. But I mean, if you're looking at Paul's letters, which I went over actually in my last video, it actually says those who like quibble over the words are the ones who are sinful, right? Which is why in 2 Corinthians, Paul goes in my, you know, basically that letter, after reading it again, is kind of like, you guys are missing the point. I'd wish you all remain single because, well, I'm that happy. But if you truly must know, this is my thoughts on it, because I'm not getting any direction, because you're still missing the point, because I've told you several times. You know, I wish for you all to remain single as I do, but to each a special gift, indicating that, you know, we all have one unique special gift in this life. None are the same, one in a million, quite literally. For you knit me together in my mother's womb. Oh, how fearfully, wonderfully made. Your workmanship is marvelous, how well you know it. But everyone missed the next one. Thank you for making me so fearfully and wonderfully made. Very interesting. Where's that? If you're an individual who is attached to Sanctus Church up here in Canada, in Ajax, which used to be C4, Carruthers Creek before that, American Gospel Church. Well, if you know John Thompson and you've heard this one, the number one reason that marriages fall apart is because of your unmet expectations of your spouse. Whoa, 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 whoa. Beep, 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 beep. Abuse caboose, back up. No entiendo. You entiendo perfectly. Don't even. 90% of marriages fail because of your unmet expectations of your spouse. And I'm going to bet you anything, not vocalized properly, especially by women. Because you have a language that you may not know about if you're not a psychologist, but you actually have a special language as women where you communicate without words, etc., that allow the That's a 30-minute conversation. Just that brief little thing, that is a 30-minute conversation for some women. In that, they told a whole story of like the last week. Who done it, how they done it, what's to be done about it, the bitchin', that I'm not talking to her, she'll eventually apologize. That all happened within that short interaction. Now apply that to your marriage with your husband. Because you forget that your husband is not your girlfriend and you treat them like one of your girlfriends. You treat them as if they speak that language. You treat your kids as if I told you to do that. No, you didn't. You did not use your goddamn words. Nor did you tell me that was your expectation, that going forward, you want it done this way. It has to be right now in this exact moment. That's the other one. I remember growing up, my adoptive mom did that to me all the time. No. If I ask you to do it, it means like now or like 5 days ago. Not when you're finished your schoolwork or when you're done this. It means right now. I'm the most important thing. I'm selfish. I'm self-centered. Right now, right here. I don't care. He never listens to me. A word I say. Husband has a buddy over and they're playing Xbox. Comes in screaming, batshit crazy. Why haven't you picked up the kids? I told you to turn off the TV and kick your friend out. I have stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. She said, what? What the fuck? Is your wife on crack? No, this is her normal. Dude, when did she say that? I've been here like all day. She didn't. She's using some whatever voodoo again or something. See what I have to deal with? That's why I invite friends over, so that I don't have to deal with the abuse that goes unreported. 80% within men, actually, that goes unreported because, well, men aren't little bitches, first of all. Second of all, it's rude to hit the lady. Third of all, we tend not to retaliate for the best of others around us, and we try to be, godly about it. Forgiveness 70 times 7 rather than jumping down a bitch's throat. Perhaps Cynthia, Susan, Sinwatch Susan, different Susan actually. What about bitchin' Barbara? Bitchin' Betty? Ooh, Park Watch, right? Right? What's a P? Park Watch Patty. Worst is going into a church in downtown Toronto to go speak to a fellow pastor as a pastor after Queen Esther's tomb was recently opened, actually. Except it hasn't been known as Esther's tomb. But it was Esther's tomb, Saqqara. Because Mordecai was the palace guard who had a bad hip, a very, very bad hip joint, which Dr. Zawas reconstructed that bones, actually. And, well, she does an amazing thing. She actually sits in front of the bones, and instead of telling them what their story is, she actually sits in front of them while she's recreating it and goes, who are you? Tell me your story. One of the biggest takeaways, actually. Great teacher. Forensic anthropologist in the Middle East. A woman. Yeah. And, well, based off of the hip, I would say he would be Mordecai, based off of the left hip being bad, indicating that the sword was on his left hip, right-handed, who then, the first genocide of the Jews, actually, was by Haman, which I guess might be Imam Muslim by chance, Muhammad, who have the first recorded history of genocide of the Jews. Because back in the day of Esther, if you don't remember this, a king couldn't reverse a decree. Haman had his decree first to the king that said they could annihilate the Jews, right? End of story. The sneaky little family who do sneaky little things, who stick their sneaky noses into matters of the king, as, VeggieTales puts it. So they actually do commit genocide of the Jews. And then whoever was left of the Jews was allowed to then retaliate and then take vengeance on their enemy. Not only that, take their land, and Queen Esther literally takes all of Persia. Well, here's a question. Does that not mean Jewish and Israel then literally take all of what would have been Persia back then in those territories? Now that, we find her and her dead uncle of Jewish descent, who we were told in Esther that Haman was killed either on the gallows or on the pole, impaled in the courtyard. So seeing as Esther and Mordecai as a child bride, nonetheless, which is actually, Dr. Zawas, if you see this, it's actually where the bone, it's not a blood disease. It's to help during childbirth from the amniotic sac bursting from my last video. In women who are godly and holy, who are doing his will, it bursts a little bit ahead of time. You don't notice your water breaking, and it turns your bones into rubber and your flesh into elastic. So literally when your baby comes, whoosh, out she comes. No problem, no pain, no nothing. Because your enzymes stop at just the right time, because you are actually being of God and you are praying, you are fasting, you are obeying his will, you are acting within your faith properly. Therefore, your body cells reflect God and actually change and give you several advantages. Like literally, it's not a blood disease. It's not actually leukemia that was found in the tomb, I realized. She had just given birth to Xerxes' child and then killed as a Jewish, and then never got to see her contract with the king come to fruition in Persia and India, which means technically, I'm pretty sure if we go back to the law, because that has been found and because they tampered with Jewish scripture, I'm pretty sure that the Sikh and the individuals responsible for that and pulling basically a switch of the DNA like they're doing right now so that none of us remember, or, it's all a lie, etc. The first sign of propaganda, actually, which was also uncovered at nearly the same time period, just before the front of Cleopatra's temple actually disappears and becomes the New Delhi Palace in India. Yeah, Cleopatra's temple down the Nile, which is missing like the whole front half of it? Yeah, New Delhi. You should probably take a look at the structure, because archaeologists, you'll go nuts over it. The message boards that were just recovered from underneath Cleopatra's temple were actually the first signs of propaganda that were exactly like the anti-Jewish Hitler government that now lead back to Egypt and a repetitive behavior of the killing and the slaughter of the Jews and the genocide to the Jews. Ones that are absolutely trash towards women who, if you don't know Esther's story, she refused Vashti, the original queen, who got banished with a pregnant Vashti, I figured out, because that's why she said, no, I'm not going to my husband's drunk fest. No, screw you. And you're doing this for Haman to show off. No, screw, no. And I don't think King Xerxes minded. It was Haman who said, you can't let your wife do that. You have to banish her now as per law, because if you don't, then our wives are going to stand up to us too. So he did. He kicked her out that night. Pregnant Vashti, who then becomes Vashti of Vashti and Vishnu of the prophet Ishmael. The same type. And if we look at the type of the propaganda, with the Rosetta Stone. And keep in mind, it will be reversed. Remember, some languages like Japanese, I believe it is, or some types of Mandarin, sorry, read right to left. There's a couple languages that read right to left. It's inversed. So anything that was in the tombs of Egypt and whatnot, I would suggest inversing the hieroglyphs and see what you get, because it's going to be backwards. And those technically are like chambers to like create iron, cast like pieces for basically like Sauron's temple and black magic and black power. No other group raises a fist in such violence. Right? All it takes is a Hitler to set it off. Are you going to be the Hitler? Oh, too late. Those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. You're already there. Secret police, a complete enforcement of the law, no matter if you're right or not, a violation of the truth, ignoring your own scriptures. For he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Knowledge comes easy for those who listen. I personally love this new one that I found this last year. Exodus 14:14, as they're exiting Egypt, actually, after Passover. They are finally let go, and they come to the Dead Sea. The Egyptians now literally right behind them, screaming and approaching quickly. And as they turn to Moses and go, "What kind of leader are you? Did you just bring us out here to die with false hope?" That's how much faith they had, because the Egyptians were coming after to kill them now. Oh, funny, just like trafficking victims who you can't let tell their story, otherwise, oh shit. Wonder who's in charge here. But Exodus 14:14, and I don't know why this isn't a more prominent verse. Stay calm, for the Lord your God will come and fight for you. Be calm, for the Lord himself, will come and fight for you. What about don't stifle the Holy Spirit? How about 2 Timothy? Do not go interfering with the sinner. Rather, you're only called to do intercessory prayer. Where in God's will does it say force this among the nations? Show me one verse. And if you can't, and I want a public apology. Because not only are you disrespecting me, you are disrespecting every single individual who has contributed to the scientific community, the stopping of diseases, the stopping of brutality. And quite honestly, you're making a fool of yourselves. I message the Iraqi government every day. I message literally the heads of government every day who have been working hard to try and get me to have meetings with them, actually, if you didn't know that. And if you're one of the individuals here who's still holding me hostage and you haven't looked at the recipient list of the emails that I send incessantly, you should probably look up each of the individual email addresses and who they are. Because it's federal justices, it's political leaders, it's the Prime Minister and President's Office of India, Iraq, Ukraine, Russia, China, Japan, Korea, Africa, South Africa Presidency, First Nations leaders, federal government, both US, Canadian. You don't think I get the auto replies from their emails saying, "We've received your email." I message the EEOC, the hiring individuals for not only Secret Service, but all of the USA government jobs. So, when it says, do you have a problem with applying, or like, for more information, contact the hiring manager, and then it gives you the email and the job posting. And then, yeah, I message those people every day with all of this information that you're ignoring. Not only that, it's public knowledge. I've put it on YouTube several times. I've put my lectures on YouTube. Mayo Clinic even came actually to check my work. Family member who is the director of Mayo Clinic, if I remember right, actually, who called you a stupid cow, actually, partially. Where did I get it? From, I don't know, maybe this textbook, you stupid cow? People don't respect faceless warriors. It's not authentic. It's also the wrong thing. And unlike you, many people chose the right thing to do when it wasn't the most popular thing to do. And well, true professionals and the books, that you can get, say Changemaker, great one if you want to change your life and your job prospects, by the way, because it teaches you how to grow. Or say, for instance, this one. This is a great one. If you're a mid manager and you want to like go up to like the CEO level, or like president of a company, where not only are you not just the fall guy because you actually figure out how to fix this like mess up and you own up for the mistake, and you become more of a change management director rather than the fall guy, which is why CEOs can always find the job, because they get paid that much to like do research and stuff and like socialize, so that if there's a big fuck up with the company, they're the fall guy. They're the first out the door, because they're the ones who have the most responsibility. However, the true character is in the professional who, well, as Craig likes to say it, who was Cambridge Analytica. He says, the one thing you can't find during a PR crisis is a PR crisis manager. Well, the real ones are the ones who, in that role, when they're expected to be the fall guy in America and pass the buck so that you can keep, making the money, right? Not cost the company everything and save jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So you take the fall and then you just find a new job at another company where, again, you're just the fall guy and you just repeat the cycle. Well, the true ones, the ones that they want to keep, are the ones who act like Air China. I keep using him as an example because it's perfect. Who had an accident within their airline company, and not 24 hours later, not even a full investigation, stood in front of media globally and said, it's our fault. We accept the responsibility, and showed reverence for life and the value of the lives lost in that accident. First of all, acknowledging the victims and the families and those who lost their lives and their loved ones, and promised to make it safer going forward, rather than, I don't know, say the Delta Airlines aircraft that ended up belly up, I might add, on the tarmac of Toronto Pearson International Airport. And I don't know about you, there's never been any word on what happened, what caused it, how it happened, who's responsible, who's going to, take care of the damage, let alone the reputation of the company. So there's your difference between, well, being a loser, cruiser, dynamo, or a rock star, untouchable dynamo that people want to work with or hire or keep, let alone spend a time with. That's the difference. And I say this to every single person who feels like they are discriminated against within the workplace, or because of their race or their color. No. That's not it at all. Because the experienced hiring managers that make it up to levels like myself, well, we know within the first 10 seconds if we're going to hire you. And well, the rest of the 29 minutes and 30 seconds are a courtesy to you to say, well, I booked off the time, professional courtesy, smile, nod, and this is your time to change my mind on why I should or shouldn't and change my decision possibly. Because I've already made my mind, because I can already tell based off of how you present yourself, what you're wearing, how you sit in the chair, how you introduce yourself. If you're nervous, have you dressed for the job you want, not for the job you have? Or if you can't dress for the job that you want, not have, which is like standard practice when you do it in an interview, did you at least try? Can the individual tell, as the hiring manager, that you applied for the job and, well, congratulations, you actually made it in front of them? That's one of the hardest things to do. But even if it's not like the greatest day, what are you doing to make the impression that in the shittiest of circumstances, right? So we all know the story about, the individual who made it to the job interview like late in the rain, like had his luggage stolen, New York City, right? We all know that story. Every hiring manager practically tells it. In the worst case scenario, what did you do? How did you react? Did you call ahead? Did you try to call ahead? Did you ask the cab driver, hey, I know it's, not really kosher to ask, but can you make a call for me, even if it's on speakerphone? I'm late for an interview. Were you proactive? Were you reactive? Did you try this? Did you do that? How did you show up in the end? When you can take an incident like the Delta Airlines, which still, again, has not been addressed, when you can take that moment, or even better, if you were able to take Cambridge Analytica, which I think I'm about to do actually, in that circumstance where there is like no hope, you are dreaded, like you are going down Hitler path, and you know it as a CEO, but your lips are sealed shut because you're being threatened as a company because it was too late by the time you realized it, that you were duped, right? Were you someone who went, okay, we can pivot here? Were you a Ross? Pivot, pivot. Or did you just leave the couch and walk away and say, well, it's damaged goods. So what? Some homeless person will enjoy it. Or did you go, okay, this is the course that we need to do. It's not going to look good for the public at first, nor for the investors or this, but it's the right thing to do, which in the long term will actually benefit the company more, because why? Oh, right. Builds public trust. Ooh. Say that again. Oh, trust. The thing you don't have with your parents, with your grandparents, or nobody. Your job as a senior manager is not just to brush things under the rug, assholes. Your job is to take the situation, take the bull by the horns, be the leader. Ooh, scary, being a leader. No, please don't make me a leader. No, I hate making decisions. Then why'd you apply for the CEO or manager or VP position, girl? Oh no, they actually want me to do work. I'm just supposed to be the no. What's your recourse of action? Okay, well, let's take this for instance. Well, what's a good situation? Anybody? Trying to think. Well, reflect on the core values of the company. If you're thinking about this, like in that perspective, you would go back to the core values and the mission statement of the company. You would evaluate that, right? And go, okay, this is the company, this is where it started, this is the roots, this is the family, this is, the heart. Because every business that started that's successful started not for the money necessarily, but rather for the change that it was going to make in their life, in their family's life, in others' family, and those they care about, and more importantly, those they don't even know yet, and their employees. Those are the successful companies that are still around. In fact, Apple, always a good case study. Well, until you drove it into the shitter, but their brand power, none compares. New phone comes out, Apple or Samsung. What are you choosing? What's the first that comes to mind? Apple iPhone or Samsung Galaxy? Apple. Which is the brand that comes first to mind when you think laptops, new laptop? Ooh, I want a laptop that's Apple. Why? Have you had Apple before? Why? So your job in those moments is to figure out, how can I make our company Apple out of the shit that somebody just made this? How can I take our own fuck up and make us now the number one wanted, not only wanted, but trusted and like desired? I think that's one of the most important things that people need to realize, is that in like that whole grand scheme of things, what I just said about Apple, not only are like the symbol, the first thing that comes to mind, even if you have a Samsung or a Google Pixel, you still think Apple and you go, I wish this was Apple. Let's be honest. How many of you actually have a phone that's not Apple that went, if I could afford to buy the Apple outright, I would already have it, and the newest one? Why? One, their secure enclave, which somebody broke into now, and Apple is just as liable as every other computer. Two, and I'll tell you why. It's because Apple is actually the main server and Pentagon supplier, is why they had such strict security, which you have now ruined. Diplomats worldwide, their protection and their protective teams and the witness protection list and child protective services all rely on Apple for being safe and secure. T2 security, the T2 security chip, the one that's like impenetrable if you like don't have the receipt or like any of that, or like even if you know a programmer, practically impenetrable, and it's trash, was designed because Apple is the main supplier for the Pentagon. T2 security specifically in New York is actually the Pentagon supplier officially, because they run the GPS tracking system that military members and diplomats and children who are at risk or in protective services or have been removed from a dangerous environment, government has placed, an asset tracker with them so that if they go missing, they can locate them and get them home safely and not dead. Which is why Apple needed to be so secure. That's why you think Apple, even though you have a Samsung and you so wish that you could have an Apple, deep down you just can't afford it, or your friends or your files are still no, you still wish it was Apple. Let's be honest. They had the best hardware, design, sleek, user-friendly. For tech individuals, not so user-friendly. In fact, it was designed that way, so that they had to do special things and code certain ways and program certain ways within Apple specifications, so that only select few individuals could actually make it to that level to be working for the Pentagon on the back end, because it needs to be that secure. So you want the best of the best. So you don't want the trash and the riffraff who could compromise national security because they have shady or unethical or flexible, shall we say, morals, or loose morals, loose lips, if you will. So with COVID and the contact tracing, which they absolutely needed to break Apple's secure enclave, which made them the most secure and like non-virus capable, unless you're like specifically like bootstrapping them on your managed device profile, which every company is registered with, and the unique identifiers, right? And they can trace that back. Not to mention, I posted the executive agreement. Let's keep that in mind. The one that tracks the agreement with Apple to the supplier and the company, and who runs your remote management computer, who signed off on my data transfer, and who stole my identity, right? Oh yeah, a Douglas Vetter on an Apple managed device and configurator profile app, which the EA executive agreement and then like the 4-digit number leads back to the company and the individual it is who's responsible for that server that then has me on a virtual machine. Again, then I've also given them your host IP address and the unique identifier. I've given them the who is information, the whole thing, the who is registered, the registrant of the domain that the host is, that it's in Texas, the organization's administration. It also includes the IP address, the trace route. It includes when it was activated. It also includes the country of origin and the address. Keep in mind. Oh, and then don't forget that, well, when it comes to government and national security and people's safety, which, you know, tech companies take very seriously people's safety, right? Which is why they have so many terms like, you know, having to follow national security guidelines within their user agreements or their end user license agreements, such as with Apple. Did you know that you're not allowed to criminally harass or stalk, reverse engineer, etc. with their software? You never actually own the software on an Apple phone. You never, it's proprietary to Apple. You technically only rent it, if you didn't know that. Which means Apple should be doing a whole hell of a lot more to kick you assholes off of their platform and never let you ever use Apple again based off of facial recognition now, doesn't it? So how can you be trying to enforce the law when you're breaking it even more than you can, and you're calling it justice? You don't see that as being a huge problem? And then just realize that all of those, you know, shared folders, the evidences are all public. They've been sent to every government. They've been sent to United Nations. They've been sent to lawyers and human rights lawyers globally, on a global scale. I don't sleep because for 3 years, someone has put me in a film universe with a fake wall that you can't really see through unless you know what you're looking for. But I know this individual has a black fist painted on the inside of their garage wall. And now, keep in mind, you've also named the file Tombstone, which makes you actually guilty of premeditated, precontemplated murder, actually. Not just criminal harassment, criminal stalking. You've actually intended to kill me because the name of the file where my UUID is that tracks me and then keeps me within an invisible glass wall so that you can hunt me down and track me and, use my work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's going to be your hugest screw up.
Why do some men have absolutely beautiful?
I can't sleep at night because children are at actual risk because you're changing chemicals that you shouldn't be. And now, the links to those files are now here. So, are you done being foolish now? And I guess I'll quote Miss Congeniality here. If anyone tries to hurt one of these girls, I will take you out. I'll make you wish you were never born. Well, partially. I'll hand you over to somebody who will make you feel that way. Why? Because it also says in the Bible, for those of you who are preaching it so reverently, don't forget it also says, heaven forbid one of my children causes another sheep to sin, for it would be better that they were never born. I'm tired of some woman who keeps coming into my house, using my husband to scream at me because she's blaming me for like something with her family because I broke their family up or something with no liability on myself. Also in 2 Timothy, it talks about going to preach in Asia. If you didn't know this, the name of the Korean Bible is KOR, and it's the same, but it's more in tune with like the Quran, actually. So it's the Church of Corinth, that whole section of the world. And if you're too stupid of a white bitch to understand that, then God have mercy, because, again, not upholding his law will be your death, not mine. Where's the prayer? Rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men his brethren. No, not that one. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Woo. And the biggest thing, Christian universities fell into being of the world, not just in it. Why? Because they taught their classes, think the way I think biblically, because I'm right and I've studied the scriptures for a long time. Therefore, you must preach like I preach, or you don't pass the class. Well, God's not like that, actually. Why? Because I can use who I want, when I want, however I want, because I want to, because I'm God. Just read Hosea. He tells literally Hosea to go marry a prostitute in India who's a non-Brahmin woman, first of all, she's not touchable because she's unclean. Like in India, she would have been the person where if you're a Brahmin individual who's like non-touchable is in like clean and like you're above everybody, the ones with the money and the power. Well, if she was eating in your presence or her shadow was on your food in some parts of India, you'd have to throw the whole plate on the ground. It's useless. And yeah, you can't even eat. You can't be in their presence when they eat. That's who God told Hosea to marry. And when does God have a track record of using those who are sinless and in the church of godly nature? When does he ever have a track record of using that individual? Prodigal son. Oh, actually, no. This is my favorite. For some reason, the church and Salvation Army, I want you to think about this. Teacher, what must I do to get into heaven? Peter, you love me? Yes. You know that? Take care of my sheep. That can't be it. Teacher, come on. What must I do? Peter, if you really love me, just take care of my sheep. Moron. I mean, what? Come on, teacher. Seriously, like, what must I have to do to get into heaven? To be in eternity with you? Peter, if you really love me, take care of my sheep. Walk with me. Treat my sheep as if I treat you. You've been with me for how long now? Treat people like I treat them. And that's taking care of my sheep, is it not? So literally, do what you're doing now. And continue. And now, for some reason, here's the church and what they think being a shepherd is about. Follow the law. You will be white. You will be white. I will beat you until you're white. I will beat you until you are white as a sheep. You will be Baba black sheep to Baba white sheep. Meh. Well, I think that song, how he leaves the 99. They didn't deserve it. Still, he gave his life for me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, precious love of God brings me to my knees. Or hockey stick. You must be right. White is right. Taking care of his sheep. Oh, Chad, I should have dropped you on your head a few more times. But I guess, right, I still have to go for the one out of all of the 99. That's the problem one. Freaking special child. Well, that's the Church of America. Why? Because they cut themselves off from God. Right? Holy Spirit? Oh, he won't work that way until he's back. The only church that believes that. Literally, worldwide, you're the only ones who don't believe the gifts of the Spirit work the same way they do now. And, well, what you did is you said, Jesus, I know you broke up your body for me. My body broken for you at Pentecost goes into us, flaming tongue overhead, right? I know that you did all of that for me, but you're dead. There's no way that, miracles or any of that happens until he's back again. No, no. We just have to pray and hope that, we're good enough on our own. We're doing this on our own. He left us here. He deserted us. Oh, is that so? He deserted you, left you behind, did nothing for you. My body broken for you. Gifts of the Spirit. We don't need those. Nope, doesn't exist. Somehow, also, then, in the whole scope of that, not only becoming the vine, you've made yourself the roots and the tree, let alone then making yourselves the master gardener and who will be pruned and who's not good enough for heaven. Whew. Preach. Oof. You want a gospel message? There's your gospel message. And here's the one that's going to kick you in the nuts. Lo Ramah. Lo Ramah, as she's giving birth. You guessed the name. How? Oh my gosh, how did you know? Which translates to not loved. Can't you just picture it? Non-Brahmin woman in India, a prostitute, married to a prophet, because God told him to. And the middle child, because they have one more after, is named not loved as a non-Brahmin prostitute child in India back in the day of Jesus' time. I'm surprised she didn't commit suicide coming out of the womb. Not loved is the middle. Are you serious? Laura is another translation of it, actually, or Lauren. So not only that, why did he name Lo Ramah that? It's Old Testament. Come on, New Testamenties, let's go. Find it in your Bibles. Hey, Gospel New Market. Let's do a little Bible trivia. If you can't name the verse in where I'm in the Bible, and you say that's not a verse, and I'm right, each one is going to be an apology to me personally and publicly. Oh, right. Lo Ramah, for I have chosen to turn my face away from Israel. Whoa, the Church of God of America. The Baptists. Don't dance. David singing dance music for joy. Oh, shit. Whoa. Heathen much? Ba ba black sheep. Ba ba Baptist. Blacktist. Oh. The Ba ba Blacktist Church of America. Blackened soul because you stifled the Spirit and you told God what he could and couldn't do. You dumbass shitbox morons. God won't work that way. You just told God what he could and couldn't do. Again, not how stupid you are. How stupid are you? And maybe we should have dropped you on your head a little bit more, falling down the stairs when you were born. Or was it you were riding your motorcycle like you shouldn't have? And now you're rejecting the positive. The cornerstone that was rejected is, the blood that you rejected is now the cornerstone. Why? And I'll tell you why. Here's where I'm going with that. Judah is the gay community. Think of how much hate you've done. Women, you've specifically followed your gay children, which is why you really are at the drag shows. Drag queens. Your moms are your best friend at the show. They've been lying to you for years. And secretly, they've been sabotaging you. They are your best friend, Fruit Fly. They come to every one of your drag shows. But their pride with their women's groups, as well as the church, has them blinded to the point where they're actually sabotaging you while you're on stage, secretly hoping that you'll fall, just like in the movie. Hiding with your bestie, that is. And your best friend probably doesn't even know. And it's probably because her mom wants you two to be together, so she's trying to push you together as the matchmakers. Parents for Lesbians and Gays actually means Parents Fix Lesbians and Gays. Exodus Ministries rebranded. The Pray the Gay Away Ministries rebranded to, what is it? Restored Hope Network. We all know what it's like to mourn the choices of our loved ones, was a quote that I saw from one lady. And I've sent her an email, and I hope we've made friends. I think we have actually, but you're mourning them as if they're dead. God can't use them within the church, but he can certainly use them and how your parents raised them within their friendship circles, within their workplace. By what? Not only the fruits of the Spirit that they exhibit, that were ingrained into them, but how their parents treated each other determine that within their family, how they then pass it on. And it's within the first 3 years that your child is developed to be an asshole the rest of their life, actually, or not. Your child's entire personality is actually developed within the first 3 years. And it's not based off of anything else other than the love that you actually show towards your spouse during the first 3 years of their childhood. 90% of the water is under the bridge at that point. You got 10% that you can work with after that. So if you're one of those people who go, oh, it's okay, a baby will fix our relationship because she's trying to trap the husband, because that's what they're taught to do as the women in college by their moms in the fraternity houses. That's what they're taught, that they can't do it without you. Find the hottest one, trap him, make him have a mistake baby, you're set for life. And men, that's actually what happened to you. She didn't have an oops. You're so insipid. Well, I think that gentleman was right. Devoid of character. Because their moms are all pulling the strings remotely on Xbox and via computers and Zoom with an earpiece, telling your girlfriends what to do. Because they never made anything with their lives, actually, which I did a TikTok video on, actually. Because, well, there's someone there who might be a friend and a colleague from the South. I won't say more than that, but you guys already know. Your moms know. They put her there for the danger. And so that they could get a weapon in the house. Right? Ladies? Serbia, well, Croatia, right? Model. She came back because, well, she knew it was around the time that your daughters were there and she wanted to make better futures. Until you bitches found out and went, she's going to be there? That's their house mother? Oh, hells no. So all you women went, if our daughters find out what actually happened in our college year and how much of a slut we were and what we did, and tells them everything and what we did to her, etc., 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 we are screwed. Right? Oh, silence. Ladies, you have several federal agents in that house, in that sorority house. Let me be very, very clear. What you think is private in that house, not only is it a Netflix movie, what's happening in your fraternity house, you might want to look it up. You're so insipid as he drives away in his Porsche. Yeah, you guys are a movie already. Mean Girls like 3.0. You have several federal agents from different countries. You're making a mockery of the state's women. Each one of you is pregnant, which your moms did to you on purpose. They're not telling you who the dads are from the pajama party. Your moms have already picked out the husbands for you. Playing you for stupid. Making you waste your college years as petty little princesses. Ruining your lives. And you're letting them. And little Miss Insipid. Unfortunately, you're like my niece or something. Great niece. I don't know how that is. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, because I'm a twin and I'm 50, so I just look damn good for my age. And Miss South, you might as well pack up there. And girls, those cameras that you got, right? Which you had brought in. Remember, each one of those is hackable, and no camera in the world is not accessible on the World Wide Web and on the black market. Any conversation you have, Big Brother could be watching. By the way, I appreciate the cameras from somebody who has put them in my house. Not. So I'm going to make it very clear. Police are fed up with this movement. You make their lives a lot more dangerous than it needs to be. Women, this isn't about your fraternity, steal the drunk, steal the pig, right? Let's make that clear. You've taken that drunk American frat stupid game that every single country worldwide laughs at America about. Because none of their kids, when they make it to college, do that. Binge drink and have parties like that. None of the world. Not even Africa. Not even Dominican. They respect education. They think it's a privilege. They don't take it as a right. Most of them speak 5 different languages by the time they hit high school, let alone university. America is shit. And here's the fun part. None of them binge drink like that. See, their laws for alcohol, actually, in like practically every country, start when they're about 14 or even 12, when they're allowed to actually go buy, as a 14-year-old, a 6-pack of beer. If it's a certain percentage and under, they can go buy it at the store. And it encourages what? What does it encourage parents? Can anyone guess? because I'm big on giving the tools to parents to be able to do it on themselves. Because if I give somebody a tool, even if I have like a brief interaction with them, even if it's online or in person, and I've never like, it's not an ongoing relationship. I meet them in the street and, you know, I randomly give them a helpful piece of advice and a tool to do something themselves. They will go out of their way if they then recreate that success after I give them the tool to do it, rather than do it for them or force my will on them. But I tell them how to do it themselves or help them to see that they can do it themselves. Treat them like an adult, like someone who's valued. They will actually go out of their way to track you down and say, oh my God, you're not going to guess what happened. I did it myself. I did it. And they are so proud of themselves because they can do it themselves. Which is the goal I had in mind when I designed the new anti-trafficking program, which is more so just Secret Service agents from the White House who are both Secret Service who protect presidents and diplomats worldwide, who are also the school resource officers, not just like neighborhood officers. We're talking highly trained and specialized individuals and profilers in schools across America and Canada who are there to be a support for the parents, for the children, and for the community leaders of spiritual faith. Because they're some of the most equipped for it. Not to mention, with public trust being such a disaster and a shit show that it is right now, I need people to trust the individuals that are in the schools to protect their kids and them and the parents too. So it practically became, and it was a debate between marshals because it was with marshals for a little while, and it might be a combination of both. That is kind of still up in the air, the last I heard. But it landed with White House because, again, the perception that, you know, Secret Service is in my school now, the ones who protect the president, and it's being closely monitored now, even more so than ever, by the people who protect the president with their life. That is how much we have put into this for people to trust the government again. And for kids to feel safe. Because you neglected the kids. Their litmus test was acting out on the Gardner Expressway with that stupid racing stunts that made international news. That was actually your kids acting out, saying, Mom and Dad, please pay attention and tell us no and like discipline us and like care about us. If we pull this shit right now, make international news, being stupid, like could have killed us and other individuals, even though we made safety precautions to look like Fast and Furious in filming environments, you know, and some adults involved, possibly psychologists from other countries, who then went, okay, the kids approached us. I want to see how much the parents actually care. And then the kids, well, emancipated and had, you know, mentors within the gay community and other communities of other faiths because, well, you're doing this shit. On a global perspective, I might add. Fucking your children's life up. When they ask you to fix a problem, again, you make it worse. Not Dad. You go in too hot and heavy, you do it your way, the woman way. Even if you're not dealing with a woman, they've never done anything. Oh, she should know. You hold grudges for 30 years, silent grudges. You go out of your way to rub it into the other person's face as a woman between their woman cat fights. And now you're pulling that on the global stage with global leaders and diplomats and their children and politics and countries and their money and drug dealers and their money. Smoke. Women, would you let your child be in the primary care of an individual who has been through a car crash and uh, has some not only mental but like physical defects, like, and would you let that individual be the sole primary and care provider for a child until they're fully recovered and able to, both mentally and physically? Yes or no? Didn't think you would. Yet somehow each and every single one of you has preference in the court system. Don't fuck with me. I'm a medical doctorate. I've got 3 PhDs as well, by the way. And women, your hormones until you hit menopause and your pilot light for sex with your husbands come back on, even though the bitchiness never leaves and the hatred for ruining your body when you trapped them had an oops baby to get the most acceptable one for your parents or whatever reason you might have. Come back 5 years later for child support when you can't hold a job because your crazy ass goes and does this shit in companies costing them money, which then kicks you out of your position. But no, it was never your fault. Yet still, the justice system favors you for a primary caregiver of children when you've already traded in for the younger, sexier sex model before your husband did or your boyfriend. Well, let's put it this way. Seeing as you don't reach like the menopause age, right? And your hormones don't balance out till like 40. And even then it's questionable. But that is the body's sign of telling us that, okay, her body's recovered. It's geared up for sex. I want another kid, right? That's the physiological sign that the hormones have balanced out and that the woman has finally recovered from pushing out a bowling ball out of her twat, her now twat waffle, douche canoe. If you don't know what a twat waffle is, well, you should look it up. It's now not it's the Eggo is now out of the freezer. Yeah. Ready to go. Hormones are somewhat balanced. Well, I guess that means medically speaking and physiologically speaking, as a medical doctor, if I were to take the stand, I would never recommend the woman until she can prove with absolute doubt, with hormone testing, a blood work in triplicate by several doctors who also pass a psych test, they will not be a primary care provider. If I'm not talking about somebody else's kid on the stand, I would be speaking about if I had my own kids, that would be my stance. No fucking way. Because I can literally prove that it's about 5 times worse than a car crash victim looking after my kid, actually, who psychologically also hates the child, hates me as the husband, takes it out on us subconsciously, ruined my life, ruined my body, ruined my perfect career years, stole my career from me, never listens to me, doesn't do anything for me, is white trash. Yet still primary care provider and approved for several times over coming back. Cooper, this one's for you. Coming back 5 years later, I need more child support. It's not enough. Oh, it's not enough to pay for your sugar baby. It's not enough to pay for this, for that, for your new car. Meanwhile, you're not working. Where's kid? What kid? Oh, right. He's at so-and-so's. How much time do they spend at the mom's house? Ooh, 30%. The rest of it is at their friend's house. I think of the Naylor family, who have 5 kids, and yet still, despite having 5 kids, have kindness in their hearts to help look after others the best they can. Yet, an individual walks into a church in downtown Toronto as a pastor to speak about some stuff and, some help with being a sexual trafficking victim and a lot more. And I'm given a card when I say, okay, I'd like to meet with someone. Okay, book an appointment. And it's literally a fake email that I can tell, oh, he looked like a meth head, because I had my backpack on and I was sweating because my backpack weighs about 80 pounds. And zero respect from anybody. And then again, to a different building. Oh, looks like a meth head. So much so you closed all of the downtown places where you could sit and congregate in Toronto Church Street. Starbucks has closed like their whole upstairs. Second cup is barely available. If so, you're rushed out of there. Even if you're working on literally helping save the gay community, especially then, because, well, they're all Christians. Walking around literally making comments loud enough for individuals in the gay community to hear, oh, that's so embarrassing, as you walked by me and up Jarvis. 2 of them, actually, one of them was from a friend who I grew up with, actually, who passed me, and who I don't think Tyler recognized me with their newborn. Who went to Brempey the last I know. I didn't know they moved to Toronto, but, the Peacock family, who actually spent time in Kuwait. Donna, Jordan, and Tyler. 3 good friends. Walked right past me and said that. And I was like, whoa, dude, really? You're not even going to stop and say hi? I know it's been 10 years since I left Calgary, but geez. Dr. Bonner, I've recognized you. I'll defund the Billy Graham organization in the Church of America in one statement, one paragraph. No violence needed. And if you continue to operate past this, there will be even more serious charges, because I'm going to buy the organization for 99 cents. And well, since the charges are war criminal charges and such, and it gets much, much worse, you're going to have to hand over the organization, or the board is going to unanimously vote for me, actually, because 99% of the stock market, actually 90%, sorry, if you track the funding, because I did, working in accounting at one point. Forensic accountants, go trace 90% of the TSX and the NYSE. 90% Billy Graham and its shell organization's assets, which include all of child sexual trafficking globally, and most drug trafficking, etc., etc., etc. All of it, 90% Billy Graham organization and its assets. Now, since they now also own and control 90% of Hollywood and its assets, and they use Hollywood to then cover up their own crime, child sexual trafficking, bury child sexual trafficking victims, the Epstein list. Shall we continue? White collar crime. Taking children from farms and then calling them orphans when they were never orphans and they were stolen, and at least they won't grow up white. And then the family ends up in your church at Prestonwood. Sitting next to you is the Chinese family who goes, as you raise their daughter, and haven't said shit to you. which I bet you if you did a poll in each and every single one of your churches, of your international fellowships, especially Brentview, actually, I think you'll find the only reason that they immigrated here was to find their missing stolen child that was given up as an orphan, sexually trafficked as well at the same time. They know about it, trap them down to your church, and then sit in your congregation as a Christian themselves from another country, who sit in silence and just watch you raise their child, haven't even said anything to their actual child. It's the only reason they moved here. They're a doctor in their home country, but they're not allowed to practice here. Why? Because if they were allowed to practice here as individuals who are like 5 times more trained and educated and less racist and bullshit, they would actually be able to make changes to the system that would be detrimental to you, the health of one person, and their global shit show of lies and tyranny, including Hitler, because, well, like me, he was the only one standing up. He took the fall while everybody else hid the financial assets of every single country globally, which then the women took back from their husbands after they fraudulently married them, traded in for the sex model earlier. In fact, all 4 of them were sleeping with the one kid. They were all sleeping with Anthony. And then they show up at the restaurant for lunch, all 4 ladies. And he's going, what the fuck are you doing here? My only safe place where none of you are using me for either sex or intel or both, which is where one of them got the clap and still has it. And she's crazy because of it and lost her goddamn mind. And you all know who I'm talking about. They fraudulently married them to defund them because they thought their assets were their husbands and that they were like rich. No. They worked for the mob / their governments that they came from originally and have roots in, who then hired them to safely store some of the most precious icons of their cultural history with the other criminals, quotation marks, for safekeeping in case the world collapsed financially, and handed everything over to one person, which you fucking did. Billy fucking Pettigrew. You sold it right back into the hands of the devil. Those government assets that you sold, ladies, were the cause of Greece's financial collapse. You actually had them dig up Greece's financial assets, which then exposed every single one of the countries. Ooh. Political leader. Not very happy one either. Every single one of the assets that you cost every single country, actually, no way. Captured General Radic. Disappearing one by one women. In your, I can steal the pig and run the world better in world domination, when it's never about world domination or ever ending up on top as a military and or government. It's about the people. Those who are from Croatia and Serbia know that the most, actually. And they made a lot of sacrifices for America to protect them for this year, which you fucked up because they were the fire break. No thank you, only called terrorists, etc., and fear the Russians when they've been holding us up the longest. They didn't even surplus. They paid $16 billion just to host the Olympics at Sochi. They paid a 68 total spend in new infrastructure. Then they were called, anti this, and you're going to die if you go there. When that's not exactly the truth. They're also, by the way, Russia is 90% Russian Orthodox Christian. President Putin is actually devout Christian, reads the scriptures, knows them, and practices them, unlike you. Shitholes. So, then you've deemed some of the hardest working individuals of every country and military, including one very individual who's brave, and Latrice Royale. Did you know that they are ex-military, Swiss-French, passport control officer, who is left-handed, who actually, oddly enough, stamps the wrong way, inside out, almost like it's a calling card, is a Jewish Holocaust survivor, lives here, now homeless in the parks, or was at one point, probably is now again as a Black individual. And well, again, I say, if you like your church lawns to be pristine and whatnot, he can make soup can IEDs out of a Campbell's soup can. And the fact that he lives in the homeless communities, well, I'm pretty sure he can teach them. And well, I guess little Susie just walked across the wrong street, or church picnic. Oh, there goes little Susie's leg. Meth head. Former military, trained military, homeless, who weren't dangerous to society in the parks when you brutally removed them, actually, on public television, like in Washington and in Toronto specifically. Do you know what they were doing and why they were keeping to the parks? Almost every single one of those gentlemen that were those tent city residents, ex-special ops, backwoods, special forces trained individuals who were actually going around the city and stealing the dangerous weapons from criminals and from people's homes that were illegal and collecting them, who then you called threats to society and nationally and publicly. After you first already made them homeless, and then going to do it worse, who all have some sort of ADHD and or not necessarily substance abuse because it's carefully monitored. On aircraft carriers, they usually use speed because it sharpens their reflexes a bit. And if you miss a tow cable on an important land, that can't happen. So most of them, and since they don't talk about it or whatnot for perception, well, fuck perception. Once you do that, you lose trust because you're lying to people. And then you end up with veterans that are homeless, who don't have supports, who don't have access to medical care, who then Karens from the church go, they're just a meth head. Oh, really? They served in Iraq. And you're calling them a meth head. You're denying them support to any mental health. Actually, they can't get proper access to medical care because they look like a meth head. Meanwhile, you go to the park and you hand them a Jesus pamphlet, as you're scared of them, actually, and your teenagers do, and they even circle around them, actually, like RCMP. And you go hand them a water bottle. Meanwhile, the individual that you're looking down on is psychologically trained, possibly worked at Gitmo, are trained psychological professionals, war veterans who are on the streets because what, they cheated on you because you were doing this shit to them already? And when they stood up to you about not tolerating shit and for their kid is when you made them homeless, because heaven forbid, because it's not other countries, let's be honest. Women, fix your shit. Women empowerment, I get it. Every other nation other than white American women can make it in society except for you. Figure that out. My Aunt Heike is a good example. Magazine publisher in Kern, who nicknamed Dragon Lady. Yeah, that's my aunt. So ladies, do you want to keep your jobs? Because I can make some recommendations very, very quickly to Kurt and Heike. Kurt and Heike, rather. It's been a while since I've seen them, actually. And you should also know that my dad was also the research assistant. My adoptive dad was a research assistant that worked on the paper that developed methadone, actually at Queen's University here in Ontario. And my uncle, Peter Kazmaier, who is a chemical engineer, was with Xerox and developed erasable paper, which erases itself after 10 years, actually, and is reusable, or you can erase it sooner and reuse it. They haven't released it because it would kill all of Thunder Bay's economy and they would have no money and it would become a ghost town. Because it's all paper mill. That's 90% of the jobs up there. Why do you think Scotty's Tournament of Hearts is up there? That's the only other thing that saves their ass. They developed and did the research that developed methadone. The German and Nazi government, and this is probably why you're trying to quash it. It's this whole thing about remove someone who you think was bad without you doing your research or your due diligence or your history or anything, using AI, thinking that AI doesn't lie to you or that some people lie to you. Because you're stupid. In your blind, unjustified, misplaced, misguided, misrepresented, unjust, unrighteous, unholy anger. And you brought it to policing. And I think some men want those individuals. Because if you can't toss that shit at the door walking into a police job or justice or a manager, you're a threat and you'll get people killed. Politicians don't go in it for world dominance, ladies, or to show who's better. Their last resort is pressing a nuclear weapon or holding hostages. That's like their dreaded day as a politician, or even like most military. That's like their worst. Because they actually make friends with people and officers of all nations, and they still talk to them like every day. Some of them from Korea, etc. Frank Costanza from, that. Well, they made him look crazy because he was standing up for what was right, and he learned even Korean. And I think he knows more in actual proper Korean. It's just, it's been a while and he doubts himself. But the Korean ladies at the nail salons, they think it's cute and funny and not disrespectful necessarily, most of them, because they went, oh, he was there and he actually bothered to learn the language, meaning he actually cared. So they give him preferential treatment. They think it's funny because, kind of making a fool of himself. It's like when we make fun of someone learning English, but at least he doesn't walk in there treating them like they're trash and the only thing that they're good for is doing their nails. He acknowledges their existence and their value as a human. Really? My nail didn't do like this before I came in here. Well, maybe that's because you deserved it, bitch. Oh, honey, why you have no boyfriend? Sparkle like diamond in the sky, only $6 more. Angela Johnson, there, by the way. Oh, honey, why you have no boyfriend? It's a great skit. And by the way, not racist because she's actually part Filipino in her background and Mexican / South American. Well, because like Fiji and Hawaiian, like they start crossing DNA lines there for the record. So, Does that about cover it? Am I missing anything? I don't think so. You've destroyed my life to a couple individuals, and it's not who you think it is. It's all white women within the church. And you possibly have led other women astray from other cultures, which is really a shame. And interfered with their politics. We've got cultures who were in non-contactable tribes because they wished to be, because they did not want any part of this and they wanted to protect their people from being trafficked, aka China's media bubble. Kosovo partly, I'm thinking, till someone, aka kids, decided to try and mend things on their own. And now we have kids who, if you've seen the Incredibles show on Amazon, kids are really attacking people who are coming to try and help and coming for diplomatic meetings because they think that's what they're supposed to do. Put it this way, if you think about the entire population of all of Earth, think of each cultural variation of doctrine, of different gay stereotypes, right? Sexual fetishes, all of that. Treat that as like a different DNA strand of a representation of a different planet in the universe. Just try, okay? I'm trying to make you visualize something. I want you to think that each one of those countries, right, has part of that. and go, oh shit, maybe I screwed up. There's 3 different types of humanoids: Mongoloid, Caucasoid, right? And Negroid. From there, it branches into different groups. First Nations usually fall within the Asian, which is the Mongoloid, Mongolian. Then Negroid is within Africa, and it's like the descendant. So before you have, the elongated Negroid tribe, at which my friend Officer Irons, who, by the way, you're still like my first pick, girl, for a resource officer with Secret Service for like within schools and education for like, yeah, like girl. Because out of all the people at Toronto South Detention Center, as the like education person who goes from unit to unit to try and teach the prisoners skills like anger management or positive peer friendships, the men in that facility, including the staff, treat her and womanize her. And she doesn't let it get to her. She rises above it. She wears a smile every day, positive attitude, and she has the most infectious attitude there. She walks by your unit in the hallway, you wouldn't even know it and like not even see her, and you know that Officer Irons is walking by. Yet some of her colleagues went to go sabotage her, and some of the prisoners who have access that they shouldn't then ran her out of that because either it's a hostile environment or, not the right place for you. Rude jokes, comments. So, because I designed the program, and about like a year and a half ago, I had countries that were pledging $2 billion already to the program because they wanted it in their program, in theirs too. Then it went to an unlimited budget, and still I'm sitting here doing YouTube videos trying to talk some sense into you without anything, because military in these situations with the asset trackers communicates differently, and I know when it's one of them because it tells us rank, etc. So I'm still sitting here like this, and we're on a hold and a pause for what exactly? We're trying to bridge gaps. I'll try and put it this way. It's not necessarily a victim's protection unit within Secret Service, because the way you protect and the way you mend and fix intergenerational trauma and stop the abuse when it's not wanted abuse, because consensual consent can be a love language, actually. If it's not yours, that's fine, but it's somebody else's. And might be why your marriage is failing too. I'll get to that. If you didn't read any of my emails, or if you're not on the email chain, just ask somebody in the government, I'm sure they have it, on how it's supposed to be. So how does it go? Okay. There's a mom in the community. She's like Catholic devout, right? Maybe from like South America, possibly, because they have very, very reverence. And if you're a Christian who's going and preaching the gospel in some of South America or most of South America, please note they are already like Christians. They've got a freaking statue of Jesus on top of a mountain in Brazil, for God's sakes. Do you know how devout, like, to God and Christian they are? And their social problems and their drinking problems have nothing to do with not being saved. They are saved. Believe you me. From Mexico all the way down. You need to know that. Oh, I think that's why one gentleman goes, I'm just so glad that I'm saved. That, I think, was more of a comment of, I'm saved, right? maybe we have some more work that we could do. I think maybe, but regardless, just the thought. The program is that mom is now freaking out. Mom comes in to the school, goes, okay, I don't know where to go. My Christian friends are no help, slash, too embarrassed. My Christian psychologists, the other psychologists look at me like I'm nuts, slash, I'm scared of the other psychologists of taking my child away if I, go in there. And I don't want to freak anybody out. And my child wants to convert to Muslimism. I'm not okay. And as a growth and a real adult would go, and I realized I don't want to lose my child. So I kind of have to let them, but I'm not okay with it. Really not okay with it. But I know that if I push my child and say no and forbid it and like ban it, that I'll lose my child forever. Would you happen to, as the school resource officer, have any advice or have a minute to talk, or like, could you maybe point me in the right direction so that I can stop freaking out? Because I'm not okay. I'm having a freak out here and nobody cares as a mom. Nobody cares. And there's no right resource. And they're all pushing their own agenda. Nobody's actually, like, they're all listening, but none of them are actually using the right information. How do I keep my kid and keep them within my faith secretly? Oh, okay. Well, you know that like each temple leader and like have a staff member that like specifically works at the school, and like they've kind of abandoned their office at the church and they're like here every day now to where I have like, they're like creating their own department. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Okay. Well, I'm going to point you to the direction of this leader. They actually have taken the time to study several of the scriptures because they're from a couple of those countries and their parents and lineage were from there. So they were tired about their own families fighting so much about different doctrine that they went, you know what, I'm going to read them all and then whatever, tell them what it's up. So I don't know much, but why don't I send you there? Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that? That might actually help. Okay. Do you want your kid there, not there? What you drive the situation here. Be the Karen. In the situation, when we meet, what would make you feel comfortable? Boom. You introduce them to someone who is knowledgeable about both. And she said, well, I'd really like a minister from, like, if it's not mine, fine, but if they're the same faith and doctrine, as well as that other leader, so that like I can go, like, ask questions, and then maybe a mediator just in case. Absolutely. Done. Introduce. Yeah, I come from that country and it's a huge divide and I had to balance it out. So here's what I can tell you. Hopefully this will help. Gives it to the mom right on the table. See, you have nothing to fear. I'm still here. Boom. Crisis averted. Mom is chill. Mom's going, okay. I'm still going to need a minute, but okay. I can see your points. Cool. Where's your accreditations? Okay. Oh, from that university. Oh, whoa. You're like the next Sarvapali, if they know anything about theologians. Who's a Hindu theologian who trained in both America and India, actually. Who, my favorite quote is, communism is the ultimate worship of the state. Well, then so is ultimate worship of the church. I-O, extreme opposites. God's in the middle. So how about this one? How would you feel about a program that is started where the religious leaders of the temples around the schools that are in their communities are offered a workspace and where the leaders can all actually come in at the same time to mingle around themselves? What would happen if now all of a sudden every single one of them spent more time in the school because they actually enjoyed the school and seeing the young kids around growing up, and with the other leaders from the other temples who get to go, oh my gosh, isn't that so cute? They're falling in love. Oh, we might want to tell them about that, like that one time in our culture's history, as well as where the Quran says. We might want to warn them about that. They might want to know. Nah, let's not tell them. You're right, that's more fun. I could see that. Let's let them learn on their own. Because what you would find in that situation is not only are you going to have a more well-knit community within the organizations and the leadership, because they're starting to drop their walls because of less fear, but they'll start to compare scriptures too, which is exactly what the devil does more. Because if you come, I've read the Bhagavad Gita parts of the Quran in full and the Bible. The amount of crossover between the Quran and the Bible is already clear, but with the Bhagavad Gita was my third one where I went, holy shit, verse, match. Interesting. And other spiritual leaders know that because they've done the time, because they went, why are they so freaking crazy over there over this book? And well, they have family members that are on one side because they were stolen. And then, you know, again, that whole thing, right? So, but what you'll notice then is the more time they spend in the school and not like peddling the religion to the kids, but literally just like, even if it's like the resource office or right, like or like the Mrs. Lloyd, if you ever went to Bowness High School, or the Tyler Spooner, or the educational support assistants, right? The ones who, when you have a child who might need some extra help or some reading, some extra time, so the teacher who, or teacher's assistant, right, who isn't given the same title but really should be paid as much, because they spend more one-on-one time and they develop and they have much more of an impact on a child sometimes, especially bullied children. A resource office like that for those extra support workers who, you know, if the spiritual leader goes, you know what, I'd like to volunteer for that, right? And be, you know, I would gladly help do extra time. I used to be a teacher where I came from, or, you know, all biblical or scriptural leaders are teachers, you know. If they wanted to say, you know, be like, hey, I don't mind doing this, volunteering, being in front of the kids, that's all it takes. You'll find that the kids actually go to reach out to the spiritual leaders more and more and more, because they're accessible. They're not up here. They're not pushed out by any group. More importantly, they observe how adults are supposed to act according to their scriptures, which is why you're dealing with such a mass exodus and a huge uprising against the church, because their friends, families moved here just in search of their stolen loved one. They know. You don't know. They found out their mom can't practice here, even though they have 5 times the training as a doctor, and would have to pay to go back, can't afford to do that, because if they did, they would bring down the system and the unfairness and the inequity, which, well, also against God's law. isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't it say we are promised equality and, more importantly, equity under the law, Christians? Meaning, kids, and this is a big difference, equality is we're getting the same amount, right? When we go to the grocery store, but one bag is heavier, but we're paying the same price. That's equality. Equity under the law is where same supermarket, same, no matter who you are, that scale does not discriminate on those hazelnut, the chocolate covered hazelnuts. No. Especially those with the sour sugars. Nor does it for price. You get the exact same quality of product. You get the same service. You get the same weight, quantity, and the same price as the person in front of you, behind you, no matter what color, race, religion, sex, etc. That is what the Bible promises under God's law. So Texas, I'm going to make this very crystal clear. You've overthrown the federal government, or tried to, of Washington. You have sabotaged me and Director of Safety and Security. If you ask me, my report, which is now public, because it's on TikTok, asshole, as you made fun of me at Spa Access, downtown Toronto, when I was already part of Secret Service at that point because of my family. There's a special hell for you. You are breaking God's law by not giving equity under the law, nor have you given it for how long now? And well, since Texas law is Bible law by old law, you are fucked. Make some apologies. And then you can, apologize to the former USSR / never was USSR for the blaming of them for, the General Radek incident, who I know, by the way, goes by John, right? Or as, America knows him, one of the wet bandits from Home Alone, General Radek. Or we could talk about his partner, who's actually, somebody from Poland, actually, who now works at Toronto South Detention Center, who's an Interpol Most Wanted. You could talk about every single person that you have put away illegally in their own countries and blaming other countries, when really it was never the USSR even. Because as much as, those other cultures, again, they isolated themselves from you. Oh no, I slept with the homeless dude again, as Ali Wong likes to say. That would be America. Well, because they're logical people. Even if neuroplasty and they're biased a certain way, they're a lot less hateful. They've given up a lot more than over years without a word of a thank you. Secretly and silently doing the best they could with a massive Jewish population underneath the ground who lack sunlight, sunny D, dopamine, and can't produce adrenaline on their own, who you call a meth head and then shove further underground, as the Christian Texas church, who then involved other cultures who were isolated as women. You're oppressed women, leading the charge, leading a coup in their countries of their women, destroying their lives. So, just remember, this all happened because you couldn't tell your kids no and you couldn't discipline them. Why? Because they didn't want you to trust. And now your kids are going to pay the price when they yank the candy from them because their grandparents can't tell them that because they're mostly dead because of coronavirus, right? Kill off the old who can tell them the war stories and the truth of kids, you're falling for what I fell for. You were promised everything, autonomy, anything you wanted, my house, my rules. And then when they have what they want, a dictatorship and Billy Graham crusade again, well, they're going to yank it from under your feet. You'll be dirty 30s, dependent on the same asshole that you tried to overthrow in the first place, that other countries have been trying to do and planned with a lot of planning. That's now trash. Again, other countries, well, I thank them. My first reaction actually was to thank Vietnam for coming. Because again, they have every right to, first of all. Second of all, brilliant and amazing military tactic. Overlapping 4 planes midair, hidden, switching all the passengers' passports, luggage, and filling up, because they had to transfer all from MH370 to the hidden planes because you can't land on a full fuel tank. And they landed at Bun Ta Air in 4 planes landed at once in 4 different countries, 6 different countries actually. And they're brave individuals. And Gary Oldman, you are very, very interesting. The refugee camps. First ones to stand, yeah. And Palestine, Saddam is he's in Toronto South Detention Center. He's been there since 2000s, actually. Oh, shit. So, I guess I bring every country to the table. What do y'all bitches bring? More division and hate? Yeah, okay. Also, make sure you, yeah, okay. This is actually what, some sort of brain disease that's related. Okay. Camel/tick, John the Baptist. Ooh. I think it's a type of Lyme disease. He used to wear camel hide. Actually, John the Baptist. That's part of where it comes from. And anything Mo, oh shit, would disguise itself as a saline. Oh, good Lord. Okay. Can we throw a party without the Church of America? Because I want to run the world with the rest of the countries. Why? Because again, I'm defunding Billy Graham crusade in one statement, no violence. That puts them in violation of the Son of Sam law and has for how long now? Meaning every single one of their assets is frozen, including crypto, because you cannot profit off of the telling of your own crime. So because Billy Graham organization is 90% of TSX and NYSE, aka the entire North American stock market, 90%, right? Because they then control and own 90% of Hollywood, which then buries victims and keeps crime going and blames other countries and just keeps that abuse going. Since they profit off of that and it all goes back into the church's pocketbooks and Billy Graham's at the end of the day, well, breaking the Son of Sam law is a felony and a federal offense, which means every single one of your assets is now frozen. So I say, welcome to Hard Air Daddy Airlines on this nonstop flight to hell, or between the rock and my hard place of your legal decisions and poor life choices which led you here. Church of America. Please remember to keep all of your appendages in their locked and downright position. Smoking can be found on our wing patios. It's a blustery 3,500 miles per hour up there. Just ask Gary. Gary, he'll tell you all about it. He lived through it. You will too. We're expecting some heavy turbulence over Toronto, Ontario today. We ask that you stay in your seatbelts if the captain has well, actually, no. There is no seatbelts on this aircraft. It's for other safety when we hit that bump. Please remember, in the case of a drop of cabin air pressure, to place your cyanide gas on before placing others. If you have comments about our service today, please keep it to yourself as always, as well as your hands. The topper section is in the crew cabin with the galley members. Please feel free for some of those who partake in that. We enjoy nothing more than poppers and flight attendants. Because they're all doing it to stay normal among you crazy asses asking for water and refilling drinks every 10 seconds. Who only get paid when those wheels lift off the tarmac. And then when those wheels touch down again, their flight time and their pay time stops. So when you're boarding a plane next time, I want you to remember that all of the flight attendants, until those wheels take off and leave the pavement, they're not paid. Remember. So yeah. And well, there's so much to say. There's another video too, actually, that I need to do. It's an important one. It's regarding intimacy in marriage, actually. And I would suspect, it's part of the 90% of marriages end because of your unmet expectations of your spouse, and more than likely unspoken ones for women, unfortunately, at least in America. Basically has to do with your type of intimacy that you require in a marriage and your love languages, which is why I believe every single human being on this planet should fill out the BDSMtest.org psychological profile, which tells you if you are dominant, whether you're submissive. It tells you whether you're rope bunny, whether you're someone who is like consensual non-consent, whether bondage, no way out. That tells you your love language and the best communication styles. It's extensive. Do the long version. You might just find that you and your spouse aren't even compatible sexually, but more so other physical or like intimacy languages, the ones that are the most important, you click on, and that's why it worked. But because you're expecting somebody to be your all and everything, yeah, not going to work. I'll post the link. Here's what I can tell you as a parent, as a school individual. If you know that somebody is like a bondage, no way out type situation, actually, that means that their communication style, if you have a problem with them, if you were to like corner them in a hallway, even if it's public, sometimes actually, if you were to corner them, give them absolutely no way past you, and to like block them in until they deal with it and get in their face, they would, 1, respect you. 2, they would actually appreciate that. And 3, would be an effective means of communication to solve the problem. Just by doing that test, you can figure that out. It will tell you, and it will give you the percentages too. Link is here. I hope y'all enjoy your day, and I'll make more later. I'm tired. I'm cranky. And I know that every other nation has been planning for this and was excited for this, only to have things go south, which is kind of why they were starting to go plan B. But I think we saved it, right? I hope. Maybe let's find out. I have respect for the tribe of Kosovo / kind of needs state though, actually. It's a weird thing to do. Get over it. That's how long they've sealed themselves off. That's how long they were a non-contactable tribe until somebody contacted them again when they needed to. Oh, that's the trap. Mouse trap. Okay.